Hey, let's go. Welcome back to our show as we return from a 2-week hiatus for the holidays. We'll get caught up on the hot stove happenings and begin our 2025 draft preparation with the beginning look at the catcher position. But as we always do to start the show, we begin by asking you the question, where else would you rather be than right here? Boom! Right now. You are looking live at our split studios. This is Fantasy Baseball Now, episode 19, the Burt Camp and Harris edition. For our show as part of the Ball9.com podcast network with a combined 70 going on 72 years of fantasy baseball experience. Mike and I are here to talk about some Major League Baseball with a fantasy baseball spin. Michael.
Happy New Year, Sean.
How was the holiday?
It was full of illness, believe it or not.
Really?
Yeah. I've been battling something for a week.
That's rough.
Yeah. Well, I'm no doctor, but
can't hurt.
Well, it hasn't hurt so far. I mean, nice of the Pennsylvania Liquor Authority to reach out to me to make sure I was okay during the holidays, but
well, you got to take care of the people that take care of you.
Yeah,
that's just good business. It's just good business.
It's what it is. It is good business. A lot of baseball. I mean, I thought it would kind of die down during the holidays, but a couple presents for some teams. How'd the boys enjoy Christmas? That's the most important thing.
Best Christmas ever for the boys. They rocked the house. Santa brought them pretty much everything on the list and a few things that weren't. So yeah, it was awesome. We had a blast. Good break. It's good to kind of get back into our new normal after a de-Christmasing of the house yesterday, which took about 7 hours.
A de-Christmasing of the house?
Yeah. We Mrs. Pugsley likes that stuff down sooner rather than later. So
I started, since today is, for those of you in the know, today is the Epiphany, so that's when you're supposed to take all your shit down. I don't know if it's that or if a priest had a good idea about what to do with another degenerate thing to do with a kid, but it's one of those two things. So I started taking the stuff off the tree today.
Yep.
In anticipation of removing it from my home for Thursday pickup by the fine people at the Abington Township
Gotcha.
Public Works Department. Or I'm going to burn it since it snowed today. I might just burn it on the side of the road.
Yeah, you could do that.
We did. We got snow today. Very exciting. School's closed. Oh, yeah. School's closed last night. We got a whole 2 inches of snow.
Keep it.
Unless you're Irish and it's like 6 feet. But
keep it. All right. So where do you want to begin today? You want to begin with the catcher or you want to go with the hot stove update?
Let's go with hot stove. Let's go with hot stove because it's still burning and simmering a little bit, including up to an hour ago when I don't understand what the fuck the Reds are. I have no idea what the Reds are doing. And I don't think they do either. So my synopsis of this trade to Jim Bowden was, let me get this straight. The Reds traded Jonathan India because Matt McLain is back and healthy, and McLain can play short and second, and they like McLain better defensively than India.
Yep.
And then they replaced them with a platoon version of Jonathan India because if he sees a left-hander, it's an automatic out. And then the Dodgers, who have literally signed every outfielder that has been able to breathe, whose name is not Anthony Santander in the offseason, get another outfielder. So I don't understand I don't get this trade. Lux has always been, I don't get it. I don't get it. But, who am I? I don't get it. But Lux has always been not as good as everybody thought he was going to be, right? He was a highly touted early draft prospect when he came up. Remember, he was hot. He was going to be great. He had the unfortunate ACL injury, but then he came back from that and he forgot how to play shortstop. And he also forgot how to play second base. And he forgot how to hit against left-hand hitters. So
That's a problem.
Other than that, and being named after an old school dish detergent, I mean, I don't know what value that he brings in that trade, other than they just felt like that they had to sign him or get rid of him because he'd be the squeakiest wheel of all of those guys that are going to be very upset. James Outman will be next on the list. Team should be going. I mean, any team should take a run at him.
Yep.
But I guess we start with Corbin Burnes.
Yeah. I was shocked by the Arizona thing. I think it was you that told me he's from there. I didn't know that, but
yeah, that's where it made sense. It didn't make sense at first until his personal stuff, until the personal story of Corbin Burnes.
Yeah, you know what? Go right to the fantasy value. He's going for Boulder. He's going to the 6th worst pitchers park in baseball last year. It'll be interesting to see how he does there. His value got to take a hit in fantasy.
You know whose value took a bump? Zach Gallen.
Yeah.
Because now Zach Gallen's a 2.
Yeah.
Everybody bumped down a little bit, right? Zach Gallen gets a little more value. Merrill Kelly, if he's healthy, gets a little more value. If Eddie Rodriguez is healthy, their staff is outrageous now. Like and them trading for Josh Naylor, like they're not screwing around in Arizona.
That was a great pickup. They lose Walker. Okay, they lose Walker, and that they lose a lot offensively and defensively with him. But he is 34. You go look at Naylor's numbers in Cleveland last year. He was a monster for them. That was a great pickup.
2 years in a row. I mean, he really picked up starting at the All-Star break in 23, and last year, I mean, he was an RBI machine for them last year.
Yep.
He is going to be a free agent, so there's a little risk in that trade, but they apparently have a first baseman in the farm system that they really, really like. And if I was a deep dynasty guy, I would know who that is, but I don't. So knowing that San Diego's better, knowing that they got a taste of the World Series 2 years ago and how invigorated the fan base is, I mean, maybe their ownership group will take a page out of Matt Ipsia's playbook with the Suns and do $2 hot dogs and sodas and try to attract some young fans out there. They still don't draw particularly fantastically.
Maybe they should stop threatening to move too.
They should.
Short subject.
Well, Jerry Reinsdorf doesn't own them, but yeah, but they have been threatening that they want a new ballpark, and they probably. It's a beautiful ballpark. It's beautiful.
Yeah,
it's a little outdated, but it's not like they. I mean, the Dodgers are putting $100 million into Dodger Stadium. Why couldn't they do that and keep it downtown and do the same damn thing? You don't need a new stadium when your stadium's 20 years old.
True.
Unless you're Tampa.
And the roof isn't secure. By the way, speaking of relocation, I did send a very heartfelt message to former Oakland Athletics team president Dave Kaval a short time ago, asking him if he wanted to come on the podcast. I've yet to hear back. I did remind him he owes me at least 30 phone calls. It wasn't a very heartfelt message. I call it like I see it. But
talk about getting skewered.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, here's the graphic for him.
The total vitriol, kind of like the last. It was kind of like the last cleanse of pain from A's Nation and in the Twitter Xverse or whatever it's called anymore. Holy mackerel!
Oh, that was fun. I killed
man.
my train ride. I had 2.5 hours on the train, and all I had to do was tweet at him.
I laughed. I couldn't stop laughing. I couldn't stop laughing. It's just like, holy smokes.
He's devalued the business program at Stanford University.
Yeah, tell me about it. So Corbin Burnes, good move. Like Naylor, good move. Walker to the Astros, great move. It's a great move. And when we get to catchers, it'll even be more apparent why it's an even better move from a fantasy standpoint. Teoscar to the Dodgers.
he is
I was
a guy.
hoping he was going to
that
go back to Toronto, to be honest with you. I thought that's kind of where he wanted to go, but
he flies under the radar. I made a really crappy offer to the big man in Massachusetts yesterday. He really didn't offer much, and trying to get Tarek Skubal back for 2 rounds later than I traded him for. And I kind of threw Teoscar in there as a throw-in. The trade was rejected soundly. I love him in LA. There's little to no pressure, a ton of lineup coverage.
yeah,
He's just got to sit back and hit.
which is what he does anyway.
Yeah.
Which is what he does, and he had a phenomenal year, even though he tailed off in the second half. He had a phenomenal year. I mean, he bet on himself and got paid. Good for him. He's a good dude.
Yeah.
He seems like a great guy. Like, he seems like he has a blast playing the game. Teammates love him. Every place he's played, they love him. Vladdy Jr. still talks about missing him. So good for him. Bad for the rest of baseball as they keep stockpiling literally everybody. And they'll be deferring payments until 2090 at this point, but they'll be still paying people. Jesus Luzardo trade to the Phillies. If Jesus Luzardo is healthy, it was 2 years ago we were talking about him as a Cy Young candidate.
It was
2 years
2
ago.
or 3 years ago. I kept him in our league.
Yeah, it was 2 years ago. He was a fringe save player, and the only thing that kept him from being saved was being on the Marlins. He was injured last year. If he's healthy, and now that rotation is Wheeler, Nola, Suarez, Sanchez, and Luzardo, with Painter coming at some point. And this is also a hedge in my opinion, is a hedge by the Phillies because Luzardo's got 2 years of control, and Ranger Suarez hired Scott Boras as his agent. He's a free agent after this season. And they're not going to be able to pay 3 pitchers $30 million a year. I don't think. I don't know.
Yeah, you never know.
They've done crazier stuff. Sean Manaea to the Mets.
That's the wild card in it all, because who is he? Is he the
He
guy?
he had a really good second half last.
They said he figured it out. He was almost out of baseball. He, even at the height of his game in Oakland, he was a serviceable pitcher.
Yeah.
Third, maybe a 4. Something happened in New York. The switch got turned on for him.
He changed his delivery.
Yeah.
And he changed his delivery in the middle of the season, which is unheard of, right?
Yep.
And he was really, really good in the second half. The scary part from a Mets standpoint is Sean Manaea is your ace.
Yeah, it's tough to square. It depends what you're going to get.
They're going to sign AJ Puck and all the rest of those promising young A's pitchers that never materialized into anything, because they do have Frankie Montas.
If only David Cavill would come on the show, we could ask him what he thinks of all those players.
Yeah, you know what? Come on, Dave. You're not doing anything now. Speak freely.
Hold on. Let me send him a message. Go ahead.
Gleyber to the Tigers. I love it for Gleyber on a 1-year deal. I love it for the Tigers on a 1-year deal. I don't know what it means to Colt Keith. I don't know what that means to him, because Gleyber's not going to play third. They tried that. It didn't go well. He's not a spectacular second baseman as it is. He was a worse shortstop. I mean, they can't trade Javi Baez, but maybe Javi Baez gets a rejuvenation with Gleyber there. I like it for Gleyber. I think he's a good fit for the Tigers, and he'll
yeah.
They can be equally as in love and frustrated with him as the Yankee fans have been his entire time. Walker Buehler to the Red Sox. I didn't see that one coming. Why not? I mean, it's a little bit more money than I thought he was going to get. It's over $20 million, but
the interesting thing about
what if he's really healthy? Like, what if he
looked healthy in October, November,
playoffs, and not for the month before the playoffs? The month before the playoffs, he was terrible.
He looked good in the World Series.
He looked great in the playoffs in the World Series. He looked great.
All right, so here, look, I'm going to tweet at Cavill just to follow up on the A's thing. Here's the tweet. Hey, Coward. In case you missed my earlier invite, our show is live. I'll send you a link to the studio after you finish scrubbing John Fisher's foot fungus. It's fungi? Fungus.
It's a fungus because he only has conceivably one.
Okay. All right. Fungus.
If he had multiple body funguses, it'd be fungi.
Yeah. The interesting thing on Bueller, he co-owns a racehorse with Bregman.
That's interesting, isn't it?
And he's trying to recruit him to Boston.
Who knows? I don't know. I still can't figure out where he's going.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he's overplaying his hand.
I'm not necessarily. I don't know if he is.
Well,
I mean, his agent's got 2 big-time free agents sitting out there, and they haven't signed anywhere.
yeah.
And one of them got offered 3 for $90 to go back to New York, and said no. 3 for $90 for Pete Alonso. 3 for $90.
Wow.
He was a $40 million a year player 2 years ago. Now he's scratching 30.
Yeah. Hey, give me your take on Goldschmidt. I read earlier people were up in arms that he might wear 46. I heard today he's going to wear 48. God forbid Pettit's number. My God.
Who cares? He's going to wear Rizzo's number. Now people are up in arms about that because Rizzo was a massive contributor to Yankees' success. Christ. I mean,
it's crazy.
Give me a break. If last year was an anomaly for Goldschmidt, then it's a great move. I'm a very big Paul Goldschmidt fan, and I have been for a long, long time.
How old? Let me look at it. How old
30,
is he?
I think he's 37.
Oh, man.
Not a young guy.
So you're replacing an old first baseman with an old first baseman.
Yeah. You're
He'll be 38 in September.
You're replacing an old first baseman with conceivably diminishing skills. You're using him to replace an old first baseman with diminished skills. So
Okay.
but I don't like the fact that he's right-handed. Christian Walker's contract wasn't that big, and he's 3 years younger right now. I don't know. Maybe they're thinking about 1 year with Goldie and they go all in on Vladdy next year. I don't know what they're thinking about.
Yeah.
But it's not a terrible signing. He fields a position really well. He's always been good from a clubhouse standpoint. He'll fit in from a clubhouse standpoint. He doesn't need attention. He just wants to play baseball. But 2 years ago, he had a really good year. Last year, he had a terrible year. And he got off to Actually, last year he got off to an awful start. Awful.
Yes.
A miserable
he was a fantasy team killer last year.
He was cut last year in many fantasy leagues in late May. He was like, is this it? Did he just finally decide he didn't know how to play baseball anymore? But he had a pretty decent second half on a team that didn't play like they cared about anything last year.
Yeah.
For the most part. What's the worst that could happen? Well, I mean, honestly, what's the worst that could happen? He's better than Ben Rice.
Rizzo,
I don't know why Yankee fans are clamoring for Ben Rice. We saw 3 for 38. We saw 2 for 45. I mean, we don't need 2 for 45 as our first baseman. We just don't. Can't afford it. Yankees can't afford that. They got to get some level of production out of first base.
Has this been a good off season for the Yankees?
Nah, it's probably
it's not done yet. It's not over.
Well, they got one more move. They got to find a third baseman or a second baseman, and I hope it's a third baseman. I'd like to see Jazz move back to second because but even though he did a fine job at third, but the Fried signing, we'll see, right? I thought that was a good signing. Yeah. Getting Devin Williams was a phenomenal move. I mean, all everybody wants to talk about is one pitch in the friggin' playoffs. I mean, he's been the best closer in baseball for 2 years. I don't know what you're friggin', him or, right next to Clase for 2 years. I don't know what everybody's whining about. You go from friggin' Clay Holmes to Devin Williams and people are pissed. I don't get that. God, you should be thrilled. I mean, I think it's been okay. I mean, the Trevino trade, the arm they got from Cincinnati, that's a massive move. I mean, they traded a guy that clearly isn't going to be their number one catcher and can't hit when he catches for a guy that can't hit when he catches. And got a power arm in the bullpen, which they needed desperately.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, we'll see. You know, Aye-Sung Kim was your last guy on the list. We'll see. I mean,
I don't know anything about him. They
he's
seem to always hit.
He's a speed guy. He's Arias with speed. So he's going to run a little bit, and he can play a number of positions. So that is why Lux was expendable, and why they won't re-sign Chris Taylor probably.
Yeah.
So, but of course the Dodgers might as well just move Albuquerque to Korea and Japan and just have a farm team in the Far East and just stop kidding everybody. But we'll see with him. I mean, with the way Steel rules are now, they put him at the bottom of the order and leave Ohtani at the top. Those guys could steal 150 bases between them.
And hey, just because our show is not complete unless we're banging on the Red Sox, it's a Boston thing. You bring in Giolito, he misses the year. They signed Patrick Sandoval to pay him to rehab. I know it's a team-friendly deal, and as it should be, because he's not going to pitch most of this year, if not all of it.
Well, whether they're right or not, Liam Hendriks will be the reason why was whether they're right or not. Because they did the same thing with Liam Hendriks last year. And if Liam Hendriks goes back to the form that he had before he was first diagnosed with cancer and then injured with the White Sox, then you can't question why they would make this move.
Yeah.
Because they're not paying him that much. And what if he comes back in September and he's good? It could be. And then last but not least, a guy that played with Al Rosen.
He just keeps hitting.
On his 80, just keeps hitting. Just keeps hitting 230 with 100 walks. That's what he does. Won a Gold Glove for the first time in his life last year at 113 years old. I mean, they replaced Josh Naylor with Carlos Santana.
He just keeps hitting.
He does just.
He does enough. He stays employed every year.
He does stay employed every year. He does. He had a good year with Pittsburgh. He had a good year, like 2 years ago. He was good with Pittsburgh. He was fine for Minnesota last year.
Yep.
He's not a fantasy value guy. You know what he ends up? He always ends up on a roster because he gets in one of these little streaks where you're like, holy Jesus, last 21 games, Carlos Santana's hitting 310 with 11 homers and 23 RBIs. And then that's what he has for the next 38 games.
He's usually, I hate to say it, he's usually on the roster of the team in 11th place out of a 12-team league.
Yeah. And first
that
base
doesn't have a first baseman, and they have to have somebody. So they take
first base is not a strong, first base isn't a strong position.
Yeah.
And if you're in a team that's got corner infielder, he always, in a league that's got corner infielder, he always finds his way because he's going to play. He rarely gets hurt because he doesn't physically move fast enough to hurt himself. So it's not like, he's going to play. They're going to put him in there. Yeah. It was busier. It was busier than I expected it to be since we broke. Because usually that week between Christmas and New Year's, there's really nothing. But then, like right before Christmas, bang, Burns signs, then Walker signs, and then, a bunch of little dinky moves get done. We forgot about Charlie Morton to the Orioles because I can't miss out on the opportunity to just ask our Oriole fans that join us from time to time. Do you have the Who song "Won't Get Fooled Again" in your head with one of the greatest lines in rock and roll history, which is "Meet the new boss, same as the old boss"? Are you kidding me?
They don't know what they're doing.
Corbin Burns goes to Arizona. They signed 97-year-old Charlie Morton, who will be fine. He'll be fine. I mean, he's been injured once, maybe, and then a couple little naggers. Like he'll give you innings. He'll throw a 2-hit, 7-inning, 13 strikeout game, and then he'll have 3 starts in a row where he doesn't get out of the third.
Yeah.
He threw 93 pitches through 3 innings, and but like, what the hell what are they doing? What in the hell, of all the teams in Major League Baseball that are so close to being able to go on an extended, sustained run with unbelievable young players, what are they doing? What are
They
they
don't know.
doing?
They can't answer that question.
The Royals are smarter than the Orioles.
That's scary.
They're smarter than the Orioles. Resign Waka, give Lorenzen a 1-year deal. Take care of their own guys first. We'll figure out what we need. We'll get something. Get Jonathan India. I mean, I know they had to give up Brady Singer to do it, but they know they needed offense. So it's just like they're better positioned to improve their team and doing more things in the budget that they have for them in a similar market with the same ownership group than the team that's got a new owner that said that we're not going to be this is going to be different.
Yep.
It's not different one bit.
No.
It's not different one bit. They've done nothing to excite their fan base, and the fan base should be extremely excited, despite the fact that they're not. The only thing I can think of is terrified he's going to have to start paying some guys pretty soon.
He's going to have to.
Boys.
Well, you know what? He's not going to have to because they're keeping them all down on the farm.
That's true.
Don't pay him. Don't give him service.
You got to pay Henderson, and
Don't
it's
bring
going to
him
cost.
Yeah, you got to pay Gunnar.
It's going to cost a lot, but he should be doing it now.
He should lock him up now.
Just look at Bobby Witt's deal. They just, you know what? You get the same thing. We'll give you the same deal.
Yep.
I mean, just like the Braves are coming to the end of that. We're going to start to see what that looks like because the Braves are coming to the end of that. Albies is up this year, and then Acuna and Riley will be up right after that. We'll see, right, if that's the right thing to do. But the Guardians did a great job with Ramirez. Like, I don't understand why like the Braves showed everybody the roadmap for teams that want to work inside a real budget of how to keep, and then of course because the brain trust in Kansas City came from Atlanta. They're like, hey, let's get Bobby Witt done.
We'll get more on Albies when we do second base, but I'll tell you what, I think he's going to be a guy. He's never going to fulfill the potential. Just my opinion.
He's a huge sleeper for me this year.
Is he? Yeah, I don't know. The injuries, I kept him for a couple of years. You kept waiting and waiting and waiting. Oh. Anyway, let's go to catcher.
Let's go to catcher. Let's share this. Let's
the official kickoff.
There it is.
Draft prep. And I know I got a guy that's our age at number 1. I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to take the lead on this.
Yep, please do.
I know he's 34. Okay. But what I love about Salvador Perez, my general rule with catchers is I never keep them in our league. Again, in our league, we have 21 roster and a minor leaguer. You keep 5. I don't save catchers. I don't think they're worth it. I don't think that the difference between the top catcher and the 8th catcher or 9th or whatever is that big. But what I love about Perez, he caught 91 games last year, but he played 49 at first base, and they DH him, I think, at 24 last year. He plays all the time.
He plays 150
time off. Yeah, he doesn't take time off. Most catchers, what are you looking at? 130, 135?
Yeah.
You get the games, you get the counting stats for him. That's his big value over the rest of this list. That's
agree.
why I like him at number 1.
I agree. That's why I couldn't move him lower than 2.
Yep.
I couldn't. I mean, we're reverse order for 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And then it's pretty much a crap show. It's a crap show. It's a crapshoot between the two of us going up and down the rest of this.
No, look, we keep waiting for JT to fall off the cliff a little bit. You got him ranked much lower, and I'll generally take your opinion on him a little more than mine because you live in his backyard. Why do you have him down so low? He had a good year.
He plays a lot. He plays a lot of games, and he was he was not healthy last year, but he didn't look good after he came back. And at some point in time, no matter how athletic he is, and he is very athletic, and he's a great of everybody on this list, if it was a baseball team, he would be my first pick at catcher.
Okay.
Like if not a fantasy team, if he was a baseball team, he would be my first pick because he's a great catcher. He's got an excellent arm. He does all the little stuff. And for the most part, he plays a ton of games, a lot, 130, 125, 135 games. He plays a lot. But I just think at some point, the wear and tear, and then being in a lineup where he's not required as much to hit, and he's really just required to be a great catcher, I think it's diminished his offensive talent. If he was running like he did 2, 3, 4 years ago, he'd be close to 1.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a guy I have saved because he was stealing 20 bases.
Yeah.
He didn't do that last year.
There's a guy in here we both agree on, and I love him. It's Cal Raleigh, hit 243 last year. If he can give you that, you hope for better. But if he can give you that, he's solid. He's solid with his power.
Oh yeah. Well, the only reason that I have Yainer, 2 reasons why I have Yainer Diaz in front of Raleigh, the prospect of him being moved to first base because they didn't have a first baseman that they could trust, signing Christian Walker, which means he's now a catcher, but Diaz is more consistent as a hitter.
Okay.
And he's an everyday play guy too. He plays a ton. Raleigh played a lot last year for Seattle, and it wasn't because they wanted him to. It was because the platoon they thought they were going to have didn't work out.
Hey, breaking news. Uncle Ted is back.
Uncle Ted is back?
We've missed him.
Uncle Ted, Happy New Year, Uncle Ted.
Got a couple comments. What is up from his cryogenically frozen head in the, what's that, Arizona plant?
Yeah. It's with Walt Disney and Ted Williams.
Yeah, right. Anyway, go ahead.
He's right. Diaz at 10 is ridiculous.
He doesn't like that pick.
He's right to not like that pick. What do you think about Diaz at 3, Ted?
And a Happy New Year to you too, Uncle Ted. We missed you, buddy.
So let's talk about Adley Rutschman for just a minute.
Yeah, well, he's going to be more than a couple minutes because I'm going to say something. The big man in Massachusetts doesn't want to hear this. I have him ranked low because he's one of those guys. His value to the Oriole team, his fantasy value is never going to match the value he gives the Orioles.
It's impossible.
It is impossible. And I think
he's a little
like Bernie Williams was. Bernie Williams was a nice fantasy guy having your team. Not great. Didn't win you any championship, but his value to the Yankees with his defense and everything that went into it outweighed it. I think Rutschman might be that.
Well, Jeter was the same. Jeter was the same.
Yeah.
Jeter was the same. Jeter was the same, right? Jeter was, his fantasy value never, despite the fact that what he put up for counting stats, but he put him up at a time when shortstop was loaded. His value in fantasy was never going to equal his value to the team. I struggled with Rutschman, and I wanted to, and that's a great point by Ted. He did break his hand last year. I wanted to move him lower, but he does play all the time.
Yeah. So
part of this for me in this rankings is, if you're in an either league, head to head or rotisserie, counting stats are important. And out of catcher, you need guys that are going to play a lot.
Yeah, he does play. And he was hurt. But for value, where can you get him in the draft? Can you get him later? Probably not, because his name value gets him drafted higher than you might
Yeah.
do. That's the point I'm trying to make. He's not worth the high draft pick for what he's going to give you compared to other people at the position.
I agree with that. I agree with that. And Will Smith is similar. Will Smith is similar. I thought Will Smith was going to have a massive year last year.
He's regressed 2 years in a row.
Which is odd, right?
Yep.
You think he'd get some pull from that lineup? I mean, the guy we both like, I like him a little more. I got him right. The former Philly, right after the current Philly, is Logan O'Hoppe, who had a really good year. Had a really good year last year, especially after he came back from being injured. He's going to be the real deal there. Though one of the things I didn't really consider is that what does having Travis d'Arnaud do now to him?
Yeah, it seems like he's more of the backup for O'Hoppe, because I think he's kind of cemented himself.
Yeah, and he'll and d'Arnaud DH and
The other guy I like is Langoliers in Oakland. He really got to go.
A lot more than I did.
He's gonna play a lot, and his power really has developed. Again, for me, is the whole thing with him is what's that batting average going to be? Right, he's a 30 home run guy. I think he's going to be that this year. No, he hit. What did he hit? He hit in the 240s last year, I think it was. And if he can give you that, he almost hit 250. If he can give you that, you take the power. He's like Cal Raleigh, right?
Yeah,
that's why
I'm hedging all A's players this year.
Well, they don't have that 2 mile gap between the baselines and the dugouts and the foul territory that steals batting average points every year.
Yeah, but like, before our draft, I will do more work on what hitting was like in Sacramento.
Yep.
In the minors, but I don't know if that team regresses this year because they don't have the emotional, the emotional pull of the last year in Oakland. I don't know. I'm not Langoliers would be a sleeper for me. Like, he would be he's not my sleeper. He would be a sleeper. He would definitely be a sleeper for me. The guy that you have at 6 is on my do not draft list.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. Why burned? Did they burn you before?
He's going to play first base.
Okay.
So he might be. So he may pose a little bit of an advantage because he'll be 2 position eligible. Probably he'll catch enough games where he'll probably get 20 games behind the plate. But if he doesn't, let's just say he's not eligible as a catcher in June for us, then what's his value at first base?
Very little.
Very little, right?
Very little.
So I can't even rank him, so I won't even draft him. I'm surprised you didn't have Francisco Alvarez ranked.
You know why I didn't? He was going to make the list, but Ryan Jeffers was so good for me last year when I had him that I wanted to put him on there. He was sneaky good for the Twins.
Yeah,
he was great. And Alvarez disappointed a little bit in New York, didn't he, last year?
He was hurt. He got injured.
Okay.
He got off to a really good start, and then he got injured, and then he never really recovered from that injury. I think he's the next really good catcher. And we both have Tyler Stevenson. He was consistently really good. The guy that nobody talked about. Like, I ended up with Stevenson and Jeffers last year because catcher was a disaster for me, and Stevenson was fine.
Yep.
Was fine. You don't have Austin Wells. I have Austin Wells. I don't like the fact that starting about September 15th, he decided he wasn't going to hit anymore. Not a big fan of that, but he's going to catch. He's going to catch every day. And then my comeback guy is Sean Murphy. No d'Arnaud. He was hurt last year. Yeah. He had a good year 2 years ago. I know you're not a big fan of former A's.
No, I love Sean Murphy. I drafted him high in our league last year. He's
Right.
one of my favorites from that Oakland run. The problem, Murphy he got hurt opening day, and when he came back, he sucked. He was terrible. I think he will be better this year because he can't be worse. I also think there's a lot of Braves that are going to have rebounds, like Matt Olson, even though I tried to trade him today 3 times.
Yeah.
I think the Braves are going to rebound offensively. I think Murphy will be a big part of that. But he was so bad last year, I just couldn't put him on this list.
He wasn't great. I mean, the guy that I didn't put on this list that's still a sleeper for me is Joey Bart in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And he was good. And then he also got injured. And then he wasn't so great at the end of the year when they were playing for nothing. But the potential everybody saw in him as Buster Posey's heir apparent in San Francisco started to get realized last year. I do like Adrian Del Castillo, Uncle Ted. I do like him a lot. I don't know how many at bats he'll get if Montero's healthy, but he did enough. He did enough when he was there last year that they should be thinking about him a hell of a lot more than they seem to be talking about him.
By the way, our Super Bowl 59 picks are upcoming. Might as well throw that out there. Got to keep people glued.
Yeah, we got to keep people focused because this is the part where we help people make money. Where we help people make.
Here's a question I want to ask.
Right.
We get to the draft. Okay. Texans, yeah. Good luck. Ain't gonna happen.
I think Uncle.
I hope it does though.
Given the Astros and the Rangers takes that we get from Uncle Ted, and now his Texans pick for the Super Bowl, I'm not a Sherlock Holmes. I'm starting to deduce that that Uncle Ted might be from Texas.
I'm gathering that. Yes. Yeah.
I'm starting to put. Finally, the math is starting to add up, and I'm starting to.
Well, if he wants to talk about how about them Cowboys, there's a lot to talk about there. So we can bring that up. Here's my question with catcher. Okay. He's from Dallas.
Sorry to hear that.
I generally look at catcher. I don't keep them. So you get into our draft at 17 rounds. We start with 5. Where do you start looking at catcher? The reason why I guess I do devalue the position is the difference between 3 and 8, 3 and 9 is just not that big. I usually wait.
Right. So if we both have the 2 guys that we have ranked 1 and 2 at 1 and 2, then they go. So Ted's in a 2 catcher league, which totally different conversation, right?
Different ballgame.
2 catcher league, you can wait, you can get what you can get. A 2 catcher league, you got to get one good one early, and then you might go back to back and try to lock that position up, and then start. Like that's something you may highly consider, right? So I may take one, like he said, round 4, round 6. I might go like 6 and 8, but I would in a 2 catcher league, I would do catchers early because the difference between having William Contreras and Tyler Stevenson and having a bunch of guys that aren't on this list as your 2 catchers is a killer. And it's a worse killer in head-to-head. It's a worse killer in head-to-head. And that's a great point, is that in larger roster leagues than the one that Sean and I are in, there's plenty of pitching, right? And there's plenty of pitching. And if you can't get one of the top 6 or 7 in the first 3 rounds, then you might as well just wait and build a pitching staff as you can build a pitching staff. But offense can carry your team, especially head to head.
Yeah.
If the scoring set up properly, not like the Ball 9 league. Offense can carry your team.
I thought the Ball 9 league that it was not a heavy pitching focused league until we started playing.
Then we found out totally differently.
Yes.
So to answer your question, I usually wait until in our league round 7, round 8. It depends. I feel like I'm late. I feel like I'm late on run all the time. I feel like I'm like a run will go and I'm like, oh geez, I want to get Yainer Diaz, and then he goes, and then Raleigh goes right after, and people start to panic, and then the catchers start to go, and then I'm down at. I mean, I had Alvarez, and he got hurt, and that's what screwed me last year. I got him late, despite the fact that there's, I mean, one Met fan's too many, but the fact that there's so many Met fans in our league, I thought he would go sooner.
Yeah.
And he didn't. And then I took Austin Wells late on my bench, and he didn't hit for shit until he didn't hit anything until June. I cut him because I needed a roster spot. And I hear that. I hear that, Ted. Not having a catcher's hurt me many, many times.
The two positions I wait on, the two positions I usually wait on are catcher and relief pitcher, because I think they're all a dime a dozen. The catcher, again, I jumped on Murphy last year because I just thought he was going to explode for the Braves, and he got hurt. And this is a good note from Uncle Ted down in Texas. He was probably, if we had gone 13 people on the list, this is where I would have gone, as long as he's got that full-time job there.
The Babe Ruth of spring training. He did have a really good year last year. He did have a really good year last year for the Padres. He really did.
Yeah. And
he's going to be he's in a very favorable lineup. If Simeon and Seager bounce back, their lineup is stacked beyond stacked. So there's really no pressure on him to do anything but catch, which he's really good at that.
Yeah.
And then every bit of offense will be a bonus. But if he's catcher 1 and he catches 105 to 115 games, he's 25 homers.
Yeah.
He's 25 homers. He's Cal Raleigh light. I do like Jonah Heim.
Yeah,
So Ted, let's ask you, since you're Mr. Dallas, why were there rumors that he was going to be, that they were talking about trading him? Because I don't understand that. I don't understand why. I mean, he hits for decent average. He drives in runs for sure. He doesn't hit for a ton of power, but just enough. But he's a productive catcher, but why the thoughts were that he was somebody that they could potentially trade? I don't understand where that came from. I don't understand it. I get it with Josh Smith because I don't know where they're going to play him now that Young is back and healthy. Yeah, good point. You should get on Yankee Twitter. That'll satisfy that.
We need Uncle Ted to contact one of us on Twitter on our DM to get on this show.
Yeah, you need to come on, Ted. You need to come on when we do the American League West.
We can do that.
And you can make your case for the Rangers when we talk about the West. That would actually be great.
We can do that.
And we could put the William Kennedy Smith blue dot over your face for anonymity if you want. And hey, kids, you Google that. You're going to have to Google that one. But we can put the blue dot over your face for anonymity if you want. But that'd be fun. It'd be good for us. We'd like to have somebody that's got a team in the race in those divisions. He's 100% right about that. It's an odd year. It's a good year to bet on. It's a good year to bet on the Rangers. Bochy's an odd year manager.
Yeah, right. All right. So where are we going next week? We going first base?
We'll go to first base next week. We'll have I'm sure we'll have an interesting conversation about who the number one first baseman is. It'll be really interesting.
Yeah,
there should be a lock, but I don't think that's going to be my number one guy.
Yeah, I'm like I said, I have Matt Olson. I've had him. My God, I've had him on my team probably 5 years, which is an eternity for the way I hold on to players. I think I don't know what to think of Olson. He 54 homers 2 years ago. Last year, not so much. But the whole Braves just stopped hitting with so many injuries. I think he's going to have a monster year, even though I say that, and I tried to trade him 3 times today. I'm not really sure why. I don't know. My team's old too, so I got to figure out what I'm doing there.
Uncle Ted, players on third place teams don't win the MVP.
Gunnar, Holiday, Rutschman could be a super stack. Yeah, we'll see. We will see about that.
Could be. Add Cedric Mullins. Bounce back year.
He's a fantasy killer. He's a killer.
He wasn't.
He'll kill your team.
He was last year.
You can add him. He's a former Team Pugsley saved player as well. You can add him to your team, but get yourself some Tylenol and some Maalox and some of whatever's in your cup, because you gotta take the good with the bad, and there's a lot of bad.
This is medicine.
No, that's okay.
That's what's in my cup is medicine. Medicine's in my cup.
If that's what you want to call it, that's fine with me. All right. So we got to end with this music.
Yeah, thank God that Mel Allen's not alive. We'd be getting in trouble, but
no, bring it on. This is good trouble.
It is good trouble.
This is good trouble. All right. So we are out of here. We'll be back next week.
All right, Super Bowl prediction.
Oh, Super Bowl picks. I forgot about the Super Bowl picks.
It won't be the Texans, Ted. I like yours better than I like mine.
Yeah.
Only because I think it would be great if Buffalo and if Buffalo and Detroit made it, and it would be even better if Tyler Bass did a Scott Norwood impression, because that's the way he's been kicking lately, and push one wide right to leave. I am not betting against Kansas City until somebody kills them.
Yeah.
Until the Super Bowl, because I think that I think Detroit will expose their offense against the blitz is really, really good. Goff is great on time and great off schedule. And what Jahmyr did, what Jahmyr Gibbs did last night, holy mackerel.
Yeah.
Man, I mean, you gotta be kidding me. But football, the playoffs start next week. That makes it fun. Saturday, Sunday will be fun. It's a good weekend. The following weekend's the best weekend of the football season for me. Always has been.
Yep.
They're always great games. They're a little nervous here in Philly.
Is Hurts okay with the concussion?
He's still in protocol.
Wow.
He's still in concussion protocol. Green Bay's not easy. Green Bay should have beat them the opening weekend. They didn't.
Yeah.
LaFleur's a better. This is where I think the Eagles are in trouble, because now coaching matters, and Sirianni's the worst coach of the remaining coaches in the NFC. He's the worst coach.
The thing with here's the thing, you brought up the Chiefs. Here's the thing with the Chiefs. They have just walked the high wire all year.
Oh, they could be 4. They could have been 4-13 easily.
They won the games, and that's what Mahomes does. But no one's ever won 3 in a row. There's a reason for that. Here's the crazy prediction you never, ever, ever thought you'd hear from me. I think the Chargers are going to win a big game or two and get to the AFC title game. And I'll tell you what, it's not just Harbaugh. I've ripped Justin Herbert his whole career as just the guy that looks the part and doesn't deliver when the game's on the line. I think Harbaugh's got a confidence, a mindset in that team. And the biggest addition they made was bringing in Minter as the DC from Michigan, because the Charger defense, I think they're going to go in and beat Kansas City in the second round and head to Buffalo and freeze their asses off and get beat.
I didn't think Derwin James could be a better player. I didn't think Derwin James could be a better player than he already was. Minter's defense has made him a better player.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about a match made in heaven for a DC that loves that position and values it, and to put him in a spot to make massive plays all the time. Here's what I don't like about the Chargers. If they get down,
yeah.
And I mean, I know Quentin Johnson had a huge game against your team on Sunday, but I'm not going to count that as much, just because he's been so inconsistent.
Yeah.
If they play somebody with a lockdown corner, McDuffie, pretty much every team left in the playoffs has one, right? And you can take McConkey out of the game. Where's he going to throw the ball with confidence that they're actually going to catch it? Because if the way to beat the Chargers is to take away the run, which is what he wants to do. He wants to run that friggin' power eye that's been run since 1938, and he runs it everywhere he's gone, and it works. And if you can stop the run and take receiver one away, they don't have enough talent in the rest of their positions to make up for it.
Yeah.
And that's where, but coaching matters, and he is
matters a lot.
It matters this time of year. It matters a ton. It matters a ton. I mean, it just matters a ton. Is it going to be John Harbaugh or Dan Campbell, running one of those gambles on fourth down that doesn't work, that flips the field and they get beat? I mean, is it,
I'll tell you, I would love to see the Lions win the Super Bowl. I love Dan Campbell. And
I do too.
I'm hearing Antonio Pierce is going to return for the Vegas, and sometimes you gotta give coaches more than a year to see what they can do. They were going to run Campbell out of Detroit after his first year.
Yeah,
I'll look at him, but I think he sometimes gets I don't want to say careless, but reckless with some of these calls. He's like Kevin Cash in Tampa with a stupid book.
John Harbaugh does the same thing. They get caught up in this is who I am identity.
Yeah.
And if it backfires now, it's a killer.
Well, look at Kyle Shanahan. He's coached himself out of a couple Super Bowls, including when he was the OC in Atlanta, beating New England 28-3, and he refused to change his game plan to react to the situation at hand. And then he try and run the clock out. He kept trying to run his precious offense, and he lost.
Dan Campbell's why I want Aaron Glenn as the next Jets head coach.
Yeah, I love Dan Campbell. I really do. I just think at some point he's going to cost his team with the way he coaches. It just at some point it's going to happen. I hope not. I'd love to see it. And a Buffalo Detroit would be awesome. Neither team has ever won. I think it'd be awesome.
It would be compelling for sure. It would be compelling for sure. I think there's probably Kansas City fatigue.
But it's just pure hatred on my end. And by the way,
I am one of those people that just until the vampires got a stake in their heart, you can't count them as dead.
I agree.
And they pulled their ass out of the fire every way possible. I think the Bills boat race the Broncos this weekend. I think that's going to be.
Shame in it all is the Bengals couldn't squeak in there because they would have been fun. They're the.
Well, nobody wanted the Bengals.
dangerous team.
You know-
Nobody wants the teams with a winning record this year, not counting yesterday's disaster for the Chiefs.
Oh, you want a team that could throw a 50 burger on you? No,
Yeah.
you don't want to play that.
No. What, Uncle Ted, by the way, I've never rooted for the Chargers a day in my life, and I'm not going to start this weekend. Just because I picked them doesn't mean I'm rooting for them. I hope the Texans destroy them.
That'll be a good crowd in Houston this weekend.
I don't want to sound bitter, but I am.
You know, while we're on the Texans, I would be remiss if I didn't share how fucking low class it was of the Titans to wear the Houston Oilers jerseys.
I love that.
I do too, but that I love that. That's Earl Campbell. That's Dan Pastorini. That's Robert Brazil. That's old school
Curly
Houston
Colt,
Oilers, Pittsburgh Steelers, friggin' cold weather playoff games, classic football. But you can't, like, what the fuck? Like that uniform does not deserve to be worn anywhere but in the state of Texas. and then the fun part of me is like, and good for them for doing it.
Yeah, I think it's great. I think it's great.
I was like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And they did it.
All right. Well, thanks for saving me on that one. I would have felt terrible not having it. Oh, by the way, might as well, since we're talking football, I'm going Notre Dame and Ohio State. I know you love the Irish. Ohio State and Texas. I think I'm covering a high school basketball game that night, and I'm going to miss at least half of it, which is fine with me because I hate both. Those are my two most hated college football teams. But the Irish seem to have a little something special going, and they got to play a backup quarterback last week. Although, watch this. Ready? Drew Aller is going to not go back to Penn State. He said he was. My prediction is Drew Aller is the Vegas quarterback next year, and I'd be happy with that.
I think he needs to go back. I'm warming up on Drew Aller. I've got to let my Penn State hatred. I got to put that aside for a little bit.
So Notre Dame for you is like Ohio State, Texas for me.
Notre Dame, Penn State is the worst possible thing that could ever happen in the history of life for me, because I hate them both so much. I want them both to lose so badly that I'm not going to enjoy the game because one of those two teams is going to win.
Yep.
And it won't be Penn State because James Franklin at some point is going to be turning to James Franklin. But I think you're right. Ohio State's probably the best team in the country. They probably were coming into the year. And if Ewers decides to go back to Texas, Arch is going to have to leave.
I think Ewers is gone. I don't know, Texas. This is we from Texas baby. He said Uncle Ted. He thinks Manning might be the one going to Belichick, which makes a lot of sense.
It makes a huge amount of
Manning
sense.
family thing.
He said he's staying. I respect the hell out of Arch Manning because he has shown that he is a team guy, and when he's played, he's shown he's an elite quarterback. And he'll probably be the number one pick in the draft next year.
Yep.
That's why it confuses me that Aller went back, because he would be the third quarterback pick. I don't like this. I don't think either of the two QBs in this class are as good as any of the guys that were taken in the first round last year.
They're not. That's why I don't want the Raiders to draft Ward or Shedeur. I don't want them in position. Don't want it.
Well, Ted, I think to your point, I don't think they're going to. I think if Ewers said he was coming back, he's going to be the one that's going to leave, because I think that Sarkisian is going to tell him Arch is starting next year.
Yeah, I think so.
No matter what Ewers does in the net in this game that game is Friday, in the Friday night game.
Friday night, they may not be able to keep him. What if Uncle Ted's right? What if the Manning and Belichick thing is real, and it doesn't matter if they promise him the job? That would be crazy, and I would love it.
Yeah, I think football's it's an interesting time of the year at the end of the season when our teams were both in this draft stack, and fans are bitching because of winning games because you're not going to get good draft picks. First of all, this year's draft sucks. It's not great.
It's not great.
It's better on the offensive and defensive lines than it's been in a little bit, but it's horrible at quarterback. It's good at tight end. It's really good at tight end this year. Really good. And Tyler Warren's a player and a half, man.
Oh, he's crazy. Look, the Raiders are picking 6. Give me Will Johnson. We need a corner, and he's phenomenal for Michigan.
It's gonna be pretty good at running back, right? It's gonna be a pretty good running back draft.
Yep.
It's a shaky receiver draft. It's not a good cornerback draft. It's a deep safety draft, but there's a lot of but it's a deep safety free agent.
Yeah, it is
this year.
Big time.
It's not great at linebacker. But the fact that it's so weak at quarterback is going to make this draft very interesting. And this is a year that you don't want to pick high because you're going to be forced to do something that you don't want to do. Like I hear the Titans are in love with Cam Ward. I got Jet fans telling me Jackson Dart. I watch enough Ole Miss football. I watch enough Ole Miss football that I would take Dylan Gabriel before I took Jackson Dart.
I would
probably take Dylan Gabriel before I took Shedeur.
I
think Shedeur set up to be a great NFL quarterback because
I don't know.
I think he's set up to be a great NFL quarterback because he knows playing for Pat Shurmur for 2 years. I think he's got the. I think he's going to be I think he'll be smart enough to play and be an NFL quarterback. I just don't know if he's going to be disciplined enough where he could throw the ball to guys that were elite athletes that were better than anybody that was covering them, and they were going to make plays no matter what. And he had Travis Hunter to bail him out pretty much anytime he needed it.
Here's my problem with Shedeur. My problem with Shedeur is he's got too much of his dad's personality, and the diva thing is great if you're a cornerback and a kick returner or wide receiver. That's fine. You want to be the leader of your football team, a quarterback. Does he have a passion for the game, or does he have a passion for his brand? And I don't know that. And he's got a passion for the game. That's fine.
You don't know. It sounds kind of like the stuff they were saying about Caleb Williams, and the thing that us old farts need to recognize is these guys are about their brand.
Yeah.
And that's the world that they live in, right? Their brand, they're about their brand. Like that's what they're about. They're about their followers. They're about building a brand, and that's what they're about.
Yep.
And they've already made money. So I think that's the other part of that is how they handled it. And I don't think Shedeur wasn't an NIL guy. And he wasn't getting money from Dion, because I saw that interview. That was hysterical. He's like, an allowance for my father, because my father doesn't give me a nickel.
Well, I have a buddy of mine who went to Miami. He's an alum. He says Cam Ward is the real deal. Loves him in the NFL.
Well, he made himself a ton of money by going back to school, because he would have been the 8th or 9th quarterback pick last year, and he'd be languishing someplace. So he definitely did the right thing for him. He makes big throws. Right. That's a great point. Is he the next big thing, or is he Anthony Richardson? Like he's very reckless.
Well, he at least played. Anthony Richardson had 2 years of college football. He was not ready for the NFL. He was 7-6 at Florida in his 2 years. That is not enough time.
I mean, it's the reason that, why do you think Bo Nix had so much success?
Because
why do you think Michael Penix stepped in? Why do you think Michael Penix stepped in, and he's doing a good job in Atlanta? They played a lot of football. Jaden Daniels played a lot of football.
Yeah,
those guys. Rick May played a lot of football. Like these guys that play a lot of football before they get to the NFL, and now they can because they don't. And I think that's the part of this, the part of NIL, and we're totally off baseball now, but the part of NIL that I like from a development of their next step in their careers, kind of like an internship, is now it's not the rush I don't have to rush myself to the NFL to make the money because
Yeah.
I'm making a couple $1 million a year now. I can wait for 20 million because I'm already making a couple, and a couple million when you're 23 is, except for your little side gig that you had, is more money than most of us had.
Yep.
I mean, we didn't that's not a world that we were living in, right? Where you're going to school and you're making more money than you would make if you were a marketing major. That's for damn sure. But I don't know. I don't like the draft. I'm glad the Jets are at 7. They can take a deep breath and take an edge or take another offensive lineman. Yep. Banks and the kid from LSU will be there for them if they want to take another tackle. And I'm all right with that. I mean, somebody will trade. I think somebody will trade up for Hunter. I think the Patriots are in love with him.
They should be.
He's what they need. They need a star that can impact the game. And if they paired him with Gonzalez at cornerback, and then he got to play some receiver too, he's a whole different deal for the Patriots than they're used to.
Yeah, no, he's something.
No, he is.
He is something.
He is. He really is. I mean, he's a football player and a half. That kid, that kid can play football, and that's that kid can play football, and that's the bottom line with him. And he's seems like he's got his head screwed on the right way, so he's been exposed to a lot.
Yep.
And been in a lot of the hype, and I think he has a lot of fun with it, but at the same time, he's serious about life at the same time. So that's a part you don't know, right? The part that you don't know. I mean, they are kids, right? And what's somebody going to do to them? I mean, they're going to be Jamarcus Russell, or are they going to be Tom Brady?
Thanks.
You know what I mean? Like are they going to be serious about their job, or are they going to get paid and then say, all right, I got paid, I don't have to play anymore?
Tell you what, you bring that name up, I'm going to treat you like that guy in the Bears treated Malik Willis yesterday. That hurt me in my living room watching that live. If you haven't seen it, see it. And God bless the officials for not throwing a flag for hitting someone hard.
Yeah.
Because I saw that blitz coming. I was watching the game live, and I'm like, oh my God, look out. And he didn't. And he paid the price. Anyhow, hey, we'll next week we're going first base, right?
Yep.
And maybe we'll talk. I'm sure we'll devolve back into the NFL a little bit.
We probably will devolve back into the NFL. Uncle Ted, Josh Berger's not going to be on our list. I can assure you of that. There will not be a Texas Ranger first baseman on either of our top 12.
Josh Naylor, number 1. That's your preview. Uncle Ted, get in touch with us through Twitter, buddy. We'd love to have you on.
Yeah,
all right, my man. We're out. We'll be here Monday or Tuesday next week, probably.
Yeah, one of those 2 days.
Okay. Ted doesn't like right-handed bats. All right. With that, Uncle Ted, have yourself an awesome week, buddy.
Yeah, Uncle Ted, you don't have to worry about watching the pesky Dallas Cowboy playoff game this weekend, so you're all good. You're with us. Right? You're with us. We got no skin in the game anymore. It's all just about watching football.
No, we just got fucking misery.
Maybe we'll get lucky and Pete Alonso will sign with the Mariners in the next week. We'll be all good.
There you go. All right. We're out.
Adios.